cross. Well, that's not really what you want. I mean, hopefully it'll turn out okay.
I would have to say, Denise, and I've differed with you on this before. I have never seen that in all the years that I've bred. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's, because usually, you know, if they've got very tight scissors bite at 6 or 7 weeks, I'm saying just watch out for this, because your lower jaw grows at a faster pace than your upper.
Yeah, the maxilla sits.
And so you've got to have, you're hoping that they'll end up with a nice, good scissors bite where the top teeth overlap the bottom teeth.
And then sizes, scissors.
Yeah. Okay.
That's really important to look for that depth of foreface and stretch.
So now we have two. Well, I love both these heads, and I have to say I don't even know who some of these dogs are. They just have a very pleasing head. The one on the left I do know. She's a Swedish dog, and I fell in love with her from the minute I saw her. She does have perhaps a little bit too much of a stop, but I find this head very pleasing. I might like a little more underjaw on her.
Stop. What's a stop?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you, you see where, between the eyes? That's your stop, where it comes, where the nose goes up and starts with the skull.
Where the skull meets the muzzle.
Yeah. And there. Yep, that's the stop. And this dog, this is a lovely, strong, masculine head on. There again, this is a bitch on the left. So you've got a differentiation there. That's a feminine head. You should always be able to look at a dog and say, this is a bitch and this is a male. I personally do not like males that look like bitches or bitches that look like males. But that's, again, my own thing. You should be able to see that without even having to look at the other end of the... Have anybody got any questions about heads? Well, we'll proceed then. Well, the expression there, all of these dogs, I mean, I chose these as good examples. I mean, the expression is part of the dog, you know. But some have it more than others. Some have this that just shines out of them, and others of them, you have not to forget the standard that says the dog may have a slightly sad expression until it goes to work. Unfortunately, if it's in the show ring, the judge will only ever see the slightly sad expression. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things. But I mean, the expression is so important. Now, this is just a painting, and this is a game, but this, I've never seen a better head, and I've had many judges tell me that this was just a magnificent bitch head. And the expression, the ear set, the width of the skull, the eyes, which are almond-shaped, not round, the good strong muzzle, that was it. And I mean, that's a beautiful head. Now, I will also admit to a personal preference for white on the dog. And I don't want to get into huge, long, heated arguments about this, but to me, some white on the dog is an almost essential part of total type, because it does make the dog very visible to the birds. And that's the whole idea. But aesthetically, it's very pleasing as well. So there you go. No questions? No takers? Now, we're just going to have a few head faults here. Now, I mean, this dog on the left just gives me the shivers, but it's a, you know, it's got everything there. The muzzle is weak, and it's too narrow, and it's lacking the underjaw. It's got faulty ears, and there it is. It might have been a magnificent tolling dog, I have no idea. don't know who it is. Now in the bottom, there's a bitch again with an almost masculine head, but I chose this picture because for one thing her ears are faulty, but that's only one part of the dog. The eyes are definitely round, and the whole skull is rounded at the top. These are all faults. Okay, more head faults. Now I'm going to get into trouble here because of saying that the dark pigment gives me I did, but I couldn't take it out of here because I don't know how to do this.
Oh, okay.
I took it out of my booklet. But I still hold to that opinion, but it's only my own. This was a dog I had. I didn't breed him. My husband used to call him our red and white Bernese mountain dog. It's not for his size, but his head, it's a heavy, heavy head.
Don't you think that the white contributes to that look? The heaviness in the head? I do.
I don't think so. Look, it's so broad, it's it's exaggerated, it's overdone.
Yeah, it's heavy in fluid.
I mean, it's possible that the white does lead to that, but it just isn't. He was a darling dog, but I mean, he wasn't the greatest head.
I don't mind the shape of the skull and so forth.
Well, the top, I mean, that's okay, but the whole thing it's almost too much. It's just too much of it for a good toller.
If I were critiquing this dog in the show ring and it was an excellent specimen, the thing I would say at the end of my critique, after highlighting all the things I liked about it, would be, unfortunately, the head is a little too heavy for me. And I would then say...
is that the skull or
the skull?
Or both?
In proportion to the dog. If you're looking at a heavy dog, you will get a heavier head. So I could live with that. But what I don't particularly like is this very, very heavy fluid.
Mm-hmm.
The ear set, the skull is too flat. It needs to be just slightly rounded. And so it's deviating just a little bit from Toller type. It's more Newfian type. It's acceptable, but it's more Newfian type. So if I loved the dog and said this is the best built dog, it's moved better than anything else in the ring, of course you'd put it up. But you'd have to refer to the fact that the head wasn't as pleasing as you would like. It's a little bit untypical of the Toller.
And the bottom one is because this muzzle is too short and almost too blunt for. And he has a very wide skull. His head isn't really balanced.
That's the key.
What percentage of Toller type comes from their head expression?
Most of it.
Quite a bit, because head really often I'm not a head breed person myself, but head is so important because it's the first thing that strikes you. And the head also contributes so much to the expression of the dog. So, we're discussing heads here, nothing else.
Form follows function, and remember this is a retrieving breed, so the head is therefore a very important part of this breed. You must have that clean jaw, good width of jaw, blunt muscle, depth of foreface, nice and clean and chiseled through. If you've got a dog working in and out of breeds and things, you don't want him having birds getting in under the fleas and the flaps. You want a clean jaw. You want something that's not going to bite down and destroy your bird. So it's got to have a good mouth and a good jaw.
And I don't have anything actually on here about that. It's in my booklet that one of my peeves is to have a toller with loose eyelids, because these dogs are in there working in grass and seeds, and these can lodge then and give you all kinds of problem. And besides which, then you get haw, which is the third eyelid, and it's just really ugly, and I don't want to see that creeping into the toller breed. Okay, all right, heads. All right, here we are with eyes. This is a nice looking dog, but I chose him because his eyes are too round there. And they also don't really blend with his coat. You want to see the eye more or less just blending in with the coat color. Nothing in this world is perfect, but ideally you want an eye that is somewhat does blend in with the coat. Now this is a place maybe to add that your puppies sometimes go through about 3 changes of eye color before they actually hit that adult color. But you do hope that when it comes in, it's going to fairly blend with the coat.
Can I just point out, Alison, that eye to me is a bit too obliquely placed?
Well, yes. There's just something there
me
too.
more
It's
of a
around.
flat coat or a curly coat with that obliquely placed eye. Whereas our taller eyes tend to be more a level overlay.
And then you've got the different pigments here, and they definitely do alter the appear. They give you a different impression, each of these dogs, at the bottom. And the eye, you've got one that's really, really black pigment there. You've got one that's kind of liver, almost a snow nose, and you've got one with the dark flesh, which is nice, and then one with perhaps might be a little bit too pink. You've got to watch the very, very pink ones, because they may be the ones that would sunburn. But you're almost what I call flesh color, which is very common in the breed. It doesn't sunburn. If you have a dog whose nose sunburns, you've got a fault. You've got a fault, something faulty with that skin.
From a working perspective, it's not a good thing to have. I always say, Alison, I like the pigment to blend with the coat colour in a mature dog.
Well, yes. I mean, they're going through stages with puppies, but on the whole, the pigment stays. I mean, it comes in very young in puppies. If it's not there at birth, it's there by a week or 10 days.
And we've had a few with butterfly noses that filled in just recently.
Yeah. And butterfly noses, I sent one to Ontario and said, I don't know how long this is going to take. It was 17 months before they could show him in the showing.
Well, this little guy at 4 months had a full pigmented nose, and he was quite butterfly.
A butterfly nose is a 2-colored nose with either pink and brown or black and pink or black.
Yes, it can even be no pigment at all on that side. And that
So,
usually doesn't colour.
There, now, ears. Now this is just absolute. Now you see, you've got these enormous ears, so wide, set way too high on the skull, and I mean the skull is just rounded to the point of. That's a disastrous head. He does have It's almost more like a Vizsla type, muzzle in the front, except Vizslas aren't that heavy.
No,
but that's an awful, absolutely awful head. That's my dog. That's why I don't like doing these things with live dogs when the owners are there. And now the bottom dog, you have the reverse of this. You have a heavy head and little small ears that are just kind of look like they've been kind of patched on the top of the head there. So those are all faults. But I mean, that dog has a strong muzzle. Now we come to and I mean, this is a perfectly beautiful picture.
How are they supposed to be? 'Cause I've
Beg
seen
pardon?
everything. How are the ears supposed to be? Like, where are they supposed to sit on the head?
Well, they're supposed to sit well above the eye level, but not right on top of the skull.
Well back.
And then you want them dropping you want a drop ear without being as nearly as wide.
And like how long? Like, I mean,
Well, we've never really specified that, but if you have one where the tip of the ear comes to the inner side of the eye, that would be good. No more than that.
Is this a good ear set? Is this a good example of ear?
This is you could say her ears might be slightly long, but I mean it doesn't really matter. I chose her to show this beautiful neck, absolutely beautiful neck, which we don't get very often.
Do you understand what set means? Whereabouts they are placed on the skull, actually knit to the skull.
It's where the root of the
ear is, but where they're actually placed. You could feel that when you touch the ear.
It's where the root of the ear is actually placed on the
Not
skull.
necessarily. Gives you a sense of the shape of the skull.
Because some of them do kind of carry their ears up a bit. Almost that's the collie influence in them, where you get a little bit of them carrying it up and then over. But this was chosen to illustrate good length of neck, but this also just happens to be a really beautiful young bitch in every way. Front assemblies. Anything more about the neck or the head or the ears or the eyes? Or?
We can perhaps do that when we look at the live dogs.
Yeah, but that's why some of them have been chosen for just these things. Front assemblies are a real problem in tollers. Now here's an illustration of good straight forelegs and strong bone and good feet with pretty thick pads. You get a lot of tollers with crooked front bone, maybe only slightly, but it's there. And you get some disastrous fronts with, Mary Ellen, can you go down to the, do you know what the pastern is there? Above the feet, no, up further, just down a bit, there. Oh no, up, there. That's your pastern. And a number of dogs, their legs come down and then they go out like this at the pastern. That's called being broken pasterns there. And it gives them a really, choppy kind of a movement. It's not a strong leg. I've got a good example of that to show you too. Now this dog at the right, a strong forechest, good forechest there, nice angles of his upper arm and his shoulder. He's got a very strong neck. It's not very long, but that's a very strong neck. That dog would be able to carry in a goose, no problem.
Could you show with the pointer the front angle, the shoulder angle on that?
Well,
Do you want to use it?
I guess
That's the blue button, the little blue button.
Okay, here's the top of the scapula, the shoulder blade, coming down to about there. That's where the blade joins the upper arm, and this is the upper arm going back to there.
It's a little short in the upper arm.
He might be.
Someone else has also said that the line from the withers right to the elbow should be straight down to the feet.
Well, from the top of the withers,
Yeah.
it ought to ideally hit the back of the point of the shoulder. I mean, not the point of the shoulder, sorry, the point of the elbow.
Yeah.
And come down. Now this dog is set up maybe so his legs are slightly forward. They're not quite back as far as they should be.
I wouldn't like too much more neck on a toller than that, a toller of that type.
I mean that isn't. I mean that I know that it's a very strong neck.
And the reason for that is the purpose. Think again of the purpose of this dog. It isn't to go coursing and swooping down on rabbits or hare. The purpose of this dog is to dash back and forth and flash and then go in and work in cold, icy water and bring back a very heavy bird. So it must have a good, strong neck. It doesn't want that long neck that's required of some of the other retrievers like the curly coats and the flat coats and the goldens who actually work out more on land.
I mean, and this dog is not bred to range way out of sight, or I mean, he works close, works in with his owner the whole time, with the hunter the whole time.
Lovely low hocks on that dog too. Lovely low hocks on that dog.
Yes, I like him a lot. Still trying to remember his name because I had to have it for something and I can't remember who he is. This is a beautiful dog in Finland, and he's, you could almost say a little too golden retrieverian type. That's the absence of the white, you see. But beautiful. No, that's not Alan. That is it's Alan's half brother. They have the same mother. Lovely angles. See, there it is. It's been drawn on this one. I never felt that his rear quite matched his front in strength. But I mean, this is a beautiful top line on this dog. Very nice neck, lovely expression, intelligent, and just. He's a good-sized dog, but a beautiful, beautiful dog.
Something to look at when you're looking at the body proportions of that dog, which makes him look different from a golden. A golden would be a tad longer in body, but the important thing with this dog is the length of his rib cage. It takes up almost all the length of the body, and that's really important. It's a nice short coupled dog can move.
Believe me, we have plenty that are longer in the body too, but I mean this is a...
That's why I'm saying this. You know, you can have the right length of body, but it's what's in that body that's going to work, and you need that long rib cage.
This dog has been not only a great hunting dog and a great winner in the showroom, but he's been a very influential sire as well. So he's... Yep, I love him. Okay. Body, two different types of dog, both of them best in show dogs. Both of them, the dog on the left I could have done with just a slightly shorter loin on him. But they're deep-chested, both of them have well-sprung ribs. That means that the ribs are coming out not round like a barrel, but good curve in the ribs, giving plenty, again, good room for the heart and lungs. And the actual back is fairly short in these dogs. And you've got, in both of them, not too much tuck up. The underline is not coming up. There's where your hairy whippet comes in with a lot of them nowadays, where they've got rather short rib cages and a lot of tuck up. It's just an example. The one on the right, I never did. I feel his pasterns are weak and his feet are not as round as they might be. But they both won best in show, these dogs. Body faults.
Oh, he's that Alison.
I mean, look at this one. You know, there it is, straight stifle, upright shoulder. You see the show. Mary Ellen can see that I can pretty well tell you that instead of going like that, this shoulder's about that kind of angle, and then you've got you've got nothing in front of this dog. It's all
that shoulder is stopping about there.
Yeah, and then
the upper arm is about that long.
Yeah, and there's very little forechest there, very little in front.
The chest is there, but it's tucked way in behind because this shoulder is too steep and too far forward on the body.
And then you see the straight, there's no rounding in the back, no angle in the back.
Corresponding angle there. Yeah. Very, very narrow. There's absolutely no second thigh. A nice, well-muscled dog will have a lovely big muscle here. That has none.
Stifle, Denise, like bring the knee.
I'll put the point.
Well,
that's where the stifle should be on this dog. Yeah. That's where the stifle is on that dog.
Now, how you mentioned the tail, so that curly lift to the tail. You said that had to do with tail set somehow.
Well, you see that dog has a bit of a steep croup there. You can see it.
There's the croup.
There.
Yeah. That's the length of the croup. There's a slope to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It should be.
This one is the front and the back don't match. If you had just that front and put your hand over it and then looked at just that back, that dog could be two different dogs patched together.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, and I always said, wouldn't it be nice if you could chop about 2 or 3 inches out of the middle of this dog and stick it back together? Because there were a lot of things to like about her, but I mean, the whole thing of that is just. So these are, you know, she was way too long in the loin, and her top line, but it's not. The rise is not over the croup. It's a little further forward there.
She's running downhill.
And she's just, I mean, you know, her legs are too short for her length of body. Okay. Here's a couple of examples of nice, strong. There's a freestanding, but she's just standing out there, but she's standing strongly on those forelegs. And I just found this whole picture very pleasing and an example of a nice, strong rear. This one was chosen more, to me, she's a bit too long for her length of leg, but I chose her because we have very few tollers with those shorter hocks. The hock being the joint there, from there, Mary Ellen, down to the ground. And a lot of tollers, their hocks are way much higher than that.
And how would that change their movement?
It's got, you know, that's where they push off with from.
So would they have more
Well,
strength?
More
it,
push.
If they were longer
Yeah.
in the hawk, would they have more drive?
they could do, depending on if their front and rear angles match. So that otherwise, if they've got more angulation in the rear, they're going to overreach their front.
All of the muscle is in the upper part of the leg.
No, it
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
So if the hawk is too long, they don't have the power in the upper part.
What normally happens, if you have a long hop, it's usually associated with a fairly short stifle as well.
So you don't have the power.
So you don't
But
have the
we've
power.
had many tollers with very good, not long second thighs, but very good, strong, muscular second thighs. So in the end, maybe it's a combination of the bone length and the muscle that is going to give you the movement.
You can assess this quite easily by standing behind the dog, putting your hands to the upper thigh and feeling the width this way.
Oh, yeah.
Not from the side, but this way, because that's where the muscle bunching is. These
Yeah.
dogs require bunchy muscles, not like a greyhound, which needs a long elastic muscle.
Yeah.
Different function. So you do that with the upper thigh and come down below the stifle, and you should feel a nice rounded muscular thigh, second thigh.
Yeah.
And that's giving you the strength. Then your hop is your foot,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
where
pushing
the
off.
attachments and
Yeah.
tendons are.
So you know,
Yeah.
they've got to be able to get that toe in and push. So
Yeah.
if you've got a long one, it's slightly restricted.
Yeah.
It usually
But
needs
of
like
course, a
Achilles
lot
tendon
of the
type.
breeds have got much longer second thighs than tollers do. You know,
These are medium.
proportionally for the,
Yeah.
depending what the breed was bred to do. And because this breed was just bred to work along with the hunter, dash out and retrieve sticks, and then swim out, you've got to have the kind of construction that makes for a strong swimmer,
A nimble dog, I
which
like to
is,
say.
yeah,
Nimble.
but also for the swimming
Yeah,
part of it.
absolutely.
You've got to have good muscles, you've got to have, you know, good strength in the rear to get that kick that's going to do the dog. I have never understood why the Chesapeake Standard calls for the dog to be high in the rear, because I don't know what difference that makes.
Makes it a chassis, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, unless you had it, most of them had high rears, so they just said, well, this is the way they're supposed to be.
It's probably more utility dog than a...
But I remember going to a seminar that Robert Cole gave, and he talked about how the Chesapeake had helped make them a better swimmer. And I said, have any of you ever swum beside your dog underwater and watched it? Dead silence. And I tell you, you know, if you swim alongside them underwater and watch how the back legs kick and propel the dog forward, and the front is coming out like this and then going around like that, just like a breaststroke. And there's a man who writes about Newfoundlands, about how they have a unique swim, and that they come around and do this. That's bull dust, because I've swum alongside a Toller and a Newfoundland together, and they both swum exactly the same way. Anyway, let's get on here. Tail. Here we are, back to the crowning glory. But I like myself the adjective luxuriant here, because it really should be. And this kind of tail is just that. And it should reach the last vertebra of the tail, should reach at least to the point of the hawk.
I like it halfway down.
Well, I mean, but I
Depending on
mean
the length of
the
the hawk.
absolute
Yes.
the absolute
Oh, yes.
minimum would be just reaching. A Toller with a short tail is, woof. And this one, I mean, this was just in action here, but it's curled kind of in a loose sickle, not quite an inverted C, but sort of just coming out like this. When it's gating too in the show ring, it's the most pleasing tail carriage.
I always
Okay.
say in my lecture to the judges' training scheme that The toller is the only gun dog retriever that is required to have its tail. Absolute requirement. If it hasn't got that tail, then it's not a toller.
But you now notice how many of the other retrievers are now carrying their tails